Hello, I'm Esther Githu. It's Thursday, March 17th. This is Africa 54.
U.S. President Joe Biden announces $800 million in new security assistance to Ukraine. We'll have details. Zambia enters a period of national mourning for former President Rupiah Banda. And what has caused the rift between Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto? We'll explain.
Zambia observed a National Day of Mourning Wednesday, honoring its fourth president, Rupiah Banda, who died last week after a 2-year battle with colon cancer. The former president is to be buried on Friday. Daniel Tonga has more from Lusaka.
Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema declared national mourning for 7 days until Friday, 18th March 2022, a day of burial for the late Rupiah Banda. All activities of entertainment nature have been suspended and flags are running at half-mast across the country. Zambians have expressed shock at his demise. The late president was instrumental last August in mediating a smooth transition of power between former President Edgar Lungu and the incumbent Hakainde Hichilema, a feat seen as his last significant contribution to the country.
Mr. Rupiah Banda, the former president, was a unifier and is an example of a person that was a Democrat. When he lost elections in 2011, he set a very good example of handing over power without difficulties. Some other presidents in somewhere like other countries, they resist. After losing election, they don't hand over power easily. But him, immediately it was announced that he has lost elections. He facilitated an early transition of power.
He was not segregative. He didn't know any tribe. He didn't know any church. Him was so inclusive. And so as Zambians, let us love one another. He has left that legacy. Let us be democratic.
At home, the mood is solemn as dignitaries, foreign government representatives and different officials join in to mourn and sign in the book of condolences. Rupiah Banda's legacy is still a matter of debate among many people. His tenure was marred by allegations of graft. In 2013, Zambia's parliament stripped Banda of immunity from prosecution, clearing the way for investigations to arrest him for corruption-related offenses. However, he was never convicted in a court of law and did not serve any jail time. While Banda's legacy is still being discussed, he will be remembered for having gracefully accepted defeat after losing the 2011 election to the late President Michael Sata.
We noticed that even after he lost to President Michael Sata, he accepted defeat graciously. There was even no need for any negotiations. That's a great leader.
Even as this has happened, it's a sense of celebrating him much more than sadness.
Banda had held senior diplomatic posts under First President Kenneth Kaunda before being eventually named as Vice President in 2006 by then President Levi Mwanawasa. Banda served as acting president in mid-2008 when Mwanawasa suffered a stroke. Banda narrowly won October elections the same year on a ruling party ticket. Daniel Tonga, VOA News, Lusaka.
Let us know what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Still to come, 2 Kenyan political heavyweights receive good news ahead of August's presidential election. We'll be back. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta's ringing endorsement of his longtime opponent Raila Odinga for the country's August 2022 presidential elections has turned many in Kenya and across the region. For more insight into the rift between Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, Africa 54 managing editor Vincent Makori spoke with Macharia Munene, a professor of history and international relations with the U.S. International University in Nairobi.
The president explained himself at Sagana, the so-called Sagana 3, when he came up with the best explanation of what it is that might have happened between the two. Before the handshake, so the president said, he and his deputy were talking about the process of the handshake. And even on the day of the handshake, they were in agreement that it was a good idea because of the calming effects that it would have in the country. So they were together that day. They differed thereafter as to how much more the president should get into in engaging Raila. And the deputy differed because the perception was that for the deputy that embracing Raila was a threat to him politically, to the future. And since he had the future to think about, he saw Raila coming in as a threat. The president on the other side saw embracing Raila and bringing him closer and they get into discussions of other things. He saw it as a continuation of the calming effect, as peacemaking, so that he can continue doing what he wants to do in his last term, which he kept on saying that it's his legacy, building his legacy. So they differ on what or how much to accommodate Raila Odinga. So when they differed on that one, the deputy president was then seen to defy the president's wishes.
President Kenyatta has openly said that it is time for Kenya to also have a president from another ethnic group. It's not a secret that Kenya has been ruled by a president from the central province, Kikuyu, or a Kalenjin, in that case Moi, who was the longest serving president, and that it's untenable to again have another Kalenjin becoming president, because then it locks the rest of the ethnic groups from power for the next several years. Do you think that does fly in the face of many Kenyans? And is it time really for that to be an open discussion, that leadership need also to go to another region of the country?
The person who can project himself as acceptable and the best at the time for the country is the one that will be elected. Mm-hmm. And if it so happens that the convergence of interests moves to another person who is neither Luo, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, or something like that, so be it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the general sentiment. But what the president did is to open a discussion point. Yes. That as people are thinking, they should be thinking of other ways to see how things work out. Yes. It is a dicey situation.
What makes it harder for Kenya to develop a political, parties that are not organized around tribal leaders?
So we have had a problem of personality and the believability of the personality. Yes. And it's still the problem right now. Because whether you take Azimio or the other side, it's still the personality of the candidate. And I think with time, we are going to see a coalition of parties that will create 2 or 3 strong movements that people can identify with. So it's a matter of time, nothing to worry about.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Macharia Munene.
Thank you, my pleasure.
It's been a
That was Africa 54 managing editor Vincent Makori speaking with Macharia Munene, a professor of history and international relations at the U.S. International University in Nairobi. Mali's ruling junta ordered French broadcasters Radio France Internationale and France 24 off the air Wednesday night, complaining they had falsely accused the army of committing abuses. However, both were still broadcasting Thursday morning. RFI and France 24 cover African news extensively and have a strong following in the former French colony. During this month of March, VOA is honoring and celebrating women for their role in uplifting their communities. Joining me in the studio to highlight what women are doing is Orian Itangishaka, a co-host of VOA's Our Voices program. Orian, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Esther. It's a pleasure to be back.
Definitely. This is very interesting because I would like to hear, share with us actually some of the highlights of the women that you have interviewed that are outstanding.
Well, I would like to first start saying, but for Our Voices, every month and every week is Women's Month because we cover stories of women who are changing narratives, who are impacting the world in different ways. Now, what I can remember recently, one of my colleagues, Semenya Shakoye from Ethiopia, has covered the story of Timit Gebru, who was an artificial intelligence researcher at Google, who was recently fired. But she did not give up. She started her own company. She was working on artificial intelligence and facial recognition apps that she felt that were not really appropriate for people of color or people with accents. And so she also covered, Semenya also covered Dr. Cortez in South Africa, who discovered the Omicron variant. We also have Amina from Nigeria, who covered and profiled the first leader of the municipal of East Greater Accra in Ghana, a position that had never been covered, never been led by a woman. And so Honorable Katu, who's very passionate about empowering women, is in that position now. And so we highlight stories like that to really emphasize on a global platform the impact of women that we cover and what they're doing for society and for humanity.
Very, very well put, Orian. Nearly 27 years, Orian, since the Beijing conference where women went to talk about, getting gender equality. When you talk to the women on your program, what do they say hinders women from getting to that point where we say we have achieved gender parity?
Well, the simple answer, all of them usually say we are not being empowered enough. And the leading economist of this world says that if women are empowered, economies do better. That's Christine Lagarde from the IMF, former IMF chief, who said that in 2013, I believe. And if you can remember, Mandela said that if you want to change the world, you should help the women, or I would say empower the women. And so when we begin to see that women are not being empowered, we know that economies will cripple. We know that businesses will not level up. We will see work environments not working to the best of their abilities or capabilities because women in those environments are not really being empowered. But one solution I can point out, covering stories on the ground in Africa, specifically in Uganda, women say there that collective organizing is the solution. Come together and demand and request what you need and what you want from society to move forward. I
agree with that. I guess we don't have to wait to be empowered. We should get in there, right?
That's right. Demand it.
So your program is really focused on women's voices. Mm-hmm. How do you include the young people and prepare them to become the next generation of women leaders in the world?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Very
well,
briefly.
On Our Voices, we definitely are seasoned journalists who have covered many stories and many perspectives on the continent. And we believe that because we are from the different regions of the continent, Dimi is from the south, I'm in Central Africa originally, Semenyesh is from the Horn in Ethiopia, Amina is from the west in West Africa. So with that sort of perspective on the different regions of Africa, it fosters the opportunity to bring the different perspectives together and find African solutions to African challenges.
And this is a good place to start with VOA. We are global. We have so many
That's
people
right.
from different parts of the world and the continent. Orian, very, very wonderful to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
You know we love your program, Our Voices.
Yes, welcome anytime, and we welcome women to continue to watch the stories of women, very impactful stories.
Definitely. Orian Itangishaka is a co-host of VOA's Our Voices program. And Our Voices can be seen every Friday at 15:30 UTC. It is a fantastic show, so be sure to watch it. And that's our show for today. We thank you for watching Africa 54. Stay with me.